Good evening. We have 7:01, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to go ahead and do roll call throughout the room if that works for you. Okay.
Sarah Darding.
Lauren Tace Miller.
Sheila Magers.
Erica Price.
Sarah Sanders.
Rocky Business.
Rosa Cavazos.
Tiffany Kinch.
Buck Reuter.
Micah Stiegel. Matt Hirsch.
Austin Dinger.
Whitney Henley.
Jake Herstrom.
Kayla Williams.
Clayton Kelly.
Dustin Avey. Tucker Petticourt.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Next, we need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Rosa, second by Rocky. All in favor? 6-0. Welcome. Next, we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes of the December 1st, 2025 regular meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Rosa,
Second.
second by Sarah. All in favor? 6-0. Okay, we'll move on to communications, comments, concerns from patrons. Seeing none, I'm going to move on to action items, business by consent. We need a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Rosa.
Second.
Second by Sarah. All in favor? 6-0. All right, we'll move on to approve financial 2024-2025 audit report. Ms. Kayla Williams.
There we go, is that better? One of the smaller packets is a letter addressed to the Board of Education. That is what I'm going to primarily focus on going over with you today. So first, I would like to discuss our responsibilities in performing an audit. We perform our audit in accordance with specific auditing standards. Those standards require us to perform procedures to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statement is free from material misstatement. Our procedures include examining on a test basis the evidence supporting the amounts and disclosures in the financial statement. We also review the accounting principles used and the significant estimates made by management, as well as evaluate the overall financial statement presentation. The district has received a waiver from the state to issue their financial statements in conformity with the regulatory basis, which is a basis of accounting other than GAAP, and it is allowed by the state of Kansas. We're pleased to report that as a result of our audit of the district, we determined that the financial statement is presented fairly in all material respects in conformity with regulatory basis, and we issued an unmodified opinion. And so in accounting terms, that is good news. So you guys passed, essentially. In the section of the letter titled Accounting Policies and Practices, this is where we would bring to your attention anything that we identified during our audit related to any changes in existing accounting policies or newly adopted accounting policies or significant or unusual transactions. There's nothing in any of these areas to report. The final item in this section does explain that there is a significant accounting estimate. That estimate relates to the CAPER's net pension liability. There's more information about that on page 6, but ultimately after reviewing the estimate, we determined that it was appropriate. Back on the letter on page 2, in the sections titled Audit Adjustments and Uncorrected Misstatements, we just note that there were no types of adjustments that we had to make during the audit. The next section explains what is considered to be a departure from the auditor's standard report. So because the district does report their financials on the regulatory basis, which is an opinion or a type of basis other than GAAP, we issue a separate adverse opinion on GAAP basis financials. The reason for this is explained in the matters giving rise to adverse opinion section, but ultimately this is nothing unusual or unexpected. This is the same every year with regulatory basis financials. Continuing on to page 3 of the letter, In this section titled Observations about the Audit Process, we would bring to your attention any concerns or disagreements that we had with management or any other difficulties encountered in performing the audit, and there are no such matters for me to bring to your attention. In fact, management was very well prepared for the audit. They were very cooperative and transparent throughout the whole thing. So it's a very tiring process, but they were very, very well prepared. So. Page 4 of the letter also includes a section titled Shared Responsibilities for Independence. So as your auditors, we're required to maintain independence both of mind and in appearance when providing audit services. So monitoring independence requires management, the board, and our firm to work together. Essentially, we just ask that the district let us know before entering into any relationships or transactions that would impair our independence. We also have attached a copy of management's representation letter, which is located after page 5. This letter is essentially the final step in the audit process and puts into writing matters that are required by our standards to be represented to us by management. The signing of this letter is the acceptance of the financial statements. So we think that it is something that's helpful for you as a governing board to look through and to help you better understand what management is representing to us during the audit. If you read through that and you have any questions, feel free to reach out and let me know. I won't spend a lot of time going over the other two documents. One is the financial statement, and I did report already the unmodified opinion. The other is a separate document for the single audit report. Usually this is issued together with the financials, so you're probably not used to seeing a third document. There was the government shutdown that had some delays in Uniform Guidance issuing their final compliance supplement, so we were worried we weren't going to be able to issue it in time, but it turned out to be able to be done in time. It was just separate. So, but I do want to just bring to your attention on page 8 of that smaller report, there is a page titled The Schedule of Findings and Question Costs. And this is where we summarize what we do as part of the single audit, which is where we look at your federal grant money. If you expend over a certain dollar amount, you're just required to have this separate compliance audit. And this page will tell you that we did issue an unmodified opinion. We had no findings, no significant or material weaknesses, so nothing to report there. And this year we looked at the Child Nutrition Program and ESSER funds. So that was all good news to report. Finally, just a big special thank you to Sarah and everyone at the district for all your hard work. And now I'll open it up if you guys have any questions.
Does anyone have questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you
Thanks,
staying.
Kayla. The district recommends approval of the 2024 audited financial statements and audit report presented by BT & Co.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Motion by Christie, second by Rocky. All in favor? 6-0. All right, we'll move on to approve authorizing sale resolution for Series 2026 bonds. Ms. Meggers. Or,
We actually have Piper Sandler here tonight, so Dustin Avey from Piper Sandler is going to fill you in on this.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see everyone again. And I also have my colleague with me, Clayton Kelly, as well. So, well, first of all, I guess congratulations. First time we've been in front of the board since the election was successful here, I guess, 6 weeks ago. So congratulations on that. I know there's a lot of work to get to that point. I know there's now a lot of work to do going forward. So we're here really just to kind of provide an update on, from a financial plan perspective and really next steps relative to selling bonds and securing funding for the project. And I think obviously the most important objective here is making sure we deliver on the commitment to voters that was made during the bond campaign, which was a mill levy increase not more than 1.5 mils. And I think as we talked about as we were setting the mill levy and talking about the plan of finance leading up to the election, we do feel like over time, based upon hopefully where interest rates come in at compared to where we projected them at and where valuations come at in future years, that hopefully that's less than 1.5 mils, right? So we don't know exactly what that will be until we get through probably the next several budgets and know what the valuation is for the school district. But based upon where we're seeing the market currently, we think it's better than what it was when we were running some preliminary estimates, which is always a positive thing. So, I would just say interest rates start at the high level here. There's a number of things kind of impacting the plan of finance. The first thing is interest rates. Interest rates are actually nearing 9-month lows, so it's a positive thing relative to securing interest rates for this district. The current estimated rate is 4.75% over 25 years. I would just say from a comparison perspective, if you look at where we are today versus where we were when we called the election, total costs are about $5 million less. So think about total interest cost over the 25-year period. It's actually about $5 million less than where we thought it was going to be back in, I guess it would have been August, is when the Board of Education called the election. So really, really a positive thing there. Also comment a couple things here relative to the investments, right? So bonds are sold, dollars are delivered to the school district. All the dollars aren't spent at one time, and so we invest those funds based upon conversations with the architect and construction manager to make sure that we're aligning the investments to when the district actually needs the funds. So while those dollars are being invested, the district's earning investment earnings. Those investment earnings can be used for projects. So right now, and I would say this is a little bit of a moving target. We would expect, obviously the Fed just reduced a quarter point here this past meeting last week. We're anticipating the Fed's going to probably reduce interest rates, short-term rates, probably 4 times over the course of 2026. And so as we think about selling bonds and closing on those bonds, we actually want to get them invested as soon as possible before the Fed keeps reducing short-term interest rates. So I would say like right now we're estimating about $2 million of investment earnings over the course of construction. And again, it's somewhat of a guesstimate at this point, just given rates, number one. But number two is just understanding a little bit around the draw schedule and when those funds will be spent. So again, that's the point of working with the architect and the construction manager to make sure we're aligning that program, the investment program, with when the district will need the funds over the next 18 months or so. The other component to this, and again, this is a little bit of the market dynamic, bonds are sold. Obviously, we're selling $65 million worth of bonds over a 25-year period. What likely will happen based upon market dynamic is there will be a premium that's generated from the bond sale. That premium is yet to be determined based upon the demand for the bonds at the time that they're sold, but we expect there to be some additional proceeds above the $65 million generated from the bond sale. Again, the bond proceeds plus the premium plus investment earnings can only be used for 2 purposes: projects identified by the ballot question, right, and or used for mill levy management purposes. So over time, as this project is completed and constructed and finished, we'll obviously working with Sarah and Sheila relative to the budget and setting of the mill levies and evaluating options with dollars that could be left over after you go through the construction process. In conjunction with the sale of bonds, and again, we've talked about this numerous times, is the redemption, the payoff of the 2012 bonds. And so one of the action items you're taking this evening is actually an action item to redeem those bonds. And again, just as a reminder, the district has those funds already in its bond and interest fund. And again, bond and interest fund dollars can only be used for principal and interest payments. And so there's enough dollars in that fund to retire or redeem the 2012 bonds, and we're going to be redeeming them on March 1st. So there's a lot of moving pieces here. The bond sale, the closing, and the redemption of the bonds all happen right around the end of February. So I'll take a step back. The closing of the bonds will happen around February 19th is the plan, and then we're going to redeem the bonds on March 1st, the outstanding bonds on March 1st. Trying to think if I'm missing anything here. I'm just thinking through timing a little bit here. So tonight's action, you'll notice there's 2 action items. The first one, again, is to authorize the bond sale to occur. And the second one is the redemption of the bonds. There's actually a bond rating call. So part of the bond sale process is a bond rating, which, again, think of it as us as individuals going to a bank and getting a loan. The first thing they do for us is run a credit score. This is the same sort of concept relative to doing a bond issue. That we go through a credit rating process. The district will be assigned a credit rating. That credit rating, the higher the credit rating, obviously helps from an interest rate perspective. We would expect the district to probably be in the high A category. So think about the best rating out there is a AAA rating. And then it goes AA rating, so AA plus, AA minus. And then the A rating, which is A plus, A minus. Most Kansas school districts fall in the higher A category to lower AA category. And so the first step in that process is tomorrow, a conference call with the rating agency to answer some questions there, but we would expect the district to be in that high A-rated category. And then obviously we won't be doing anything over the holidays, neither will any of you, or nor do we have expectations of staff to be around. So the idea is we've done a lot of legwork, obviously, since the elections passed. A lot of documentation's already done. The rating is really kind of the final step in the process. So coming back from holiday break, we should have all the documentation ready and prepared. The goal would be to actually be in the market and secure final interest rates on January 20th, which I believe is the same date as your meeting in January. So hopefully by that evening, we'll have everything done and sold, and you'll know exactly what the final interest rate is on the bonds. And then there'll be one action item for the board to approve on the 20th, and that would allow us to move forward towards closing on February 19th. So glad to stand for any questions. Hopefully that was helpful.
Just one question, that, are we selling the whole $65 million at one time? It's not being broken out as we anticipate needing 40 million kind of right off the bat, and then the extra 25 later.
Yeah, good question. So I think the plan at this point is to sell all 65 million. I mean, I think that the two reasons. Number one is interest rates are lower than what was projected, so the district can deliver on the mill levy increase associated with the project, number one. Number two is by selling all the bonds, we can maximize the investment earnings relative to the project. And then obviously there's more efficiency, so oftentimes when you break them up, you're kind of duplicating costs every time you break them up. And so at this point, we don't see a need to break them up, given we can deliver on the plan of finance with one issue.
I guess I lied. I got one more. So as, so let's say we issue them at a certain percentage interest rate, and then a year from now, 2 years from now, or whatever, the interest rates drop significantly where it would make sense to refinance those. Are these going to be written in such a way that there won't be any sort of a prepayment penalty, or will there?
Yeah, good question. So, really good question. So typically, bond issues have fairly standard prepayment provisions. And there was actually federal law changed here in 2000 and, what was it, 17, right? 17, that prohibited the refinancing in advance of the prepayment date on a tax-exempt basis. Okay, so I know there's a lot there to unpack. So I would go back to, if interest rates fall, the district does have the ability to refinance. It's most advantageous to refinance within 90 days of the prepayment date. A typical standard prepayment date is going to be 8 years from the issuance of the bonds. Yep.
All right, any other questions? Okay, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Sarah, second by Rosa. All in favor? 6-0. Lost you, sorry about that.
It's okay.
All right, we're going to move on to authorizing resolution for early redemption of Series 2012 bonds. Do you want to do that? Do you want me to do it?
Is there anything else you want to add? He kind of referenced that, but if you have any other questions, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer them. Okay. If there aren't any questions, we would recommend approval of the early redemption of our Series 2012 bonds.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Rosa, second by Rocky. All in favor? 6-0. All right, we'll move on to approve facility committee to enter into contract negotiations with Kendall. Mr. Petticord.
Yeah, so we wrapped up the third phase of the state process for onboarding a construction manager at Rick's Services, culminating in the interview process by the facility committee last Tuesday, and then followed by scoring and then receiving the state fee forms. And then there was a unanimous selection of Kendall as the contractor for package A and B. And what we're doing now is the step where we are now authorized to go and negotiate that contract. It will be a standard AIA contract. And we'll go through that and then would be back for approval of the board at that time. So the contract that we'll be entering into is it'll be the dollar value on the contract will be a dollar because it is for pre-construction services, and then you'll have follow-up amendments that you would approve for guaranteed maximum prices as projects are bid out to the public.
All right, do we have any questions? All right, we need a motion to approve.
Move approval.
Motion by Rocky, second by Erica. All in favor? 6-0. Thank you. We'll move on to approve McElroy's proposal HVAC unit at Shawnee Heights Middle School. Mr. Stiegel.
Good evening. So we have 3 units for approval. Are we taking those one at a time or all 3 at once?
They're each one at a time due to pricing.
Okay. Yes, we went through the bid process outlined by the state, and we got bids from essentially three companies, and this is how it turned out. So the bid for the middle school was won by McElroy's for $69,675, and I'd ask you to approve that.
All right, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Rosa, second by Christie. All in favor? 6-0. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Approve Cruz proposal HVAC unit at Shawnee Heights High School North Wing.
Yes, so again, same process. Cruz came in with the winning bid at $54,900.
All right, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Sarah,
Second.
second by Rosa. All in favor? 6-0. All right, we'll move on to the final one. Approve McElroy's proposal HVAC unit to Tecumseh South Elementary.
Same process. This bid was won by McElroy's at $30,575.
All right, motion by Erica,
Second.
second by Rosa. All in favor? 6-0. All right. We're going to move on to approve Barrington roof change. Mr. Stiegel.
So just a quick briefing of how this came about. The scope of work didn't originally include this. The section of the roof, essentially directly above the Barrington main entrance, section K, needed to be taken down to the hard deck because it had been pieced together over a number of years. In addition to that, part of the process is removing a bunch of gas lines and a couple of the rooftop units there so that they could get in there and do the work to get it down to the hard deck, re-slope it, and then cover it and do their thing. This insurance was good with this change order, and I'm requesting that you approve the change order for $138,865.70.
Question?
Was this just over the main entrance area?
Give or take. So the roof is divided up into various sections depending on elevation of that roof section. This one was dubbed section K, and it's largely over that, but it does extend a little bit to the east. And as it's really the result of the building being constructed in phases, so there are some joint walls which differentiate parts of the roof, and this was the section in question.
All right, any other questions? All right, we're looking for an approval.
So moved. Oh,
Second.
Motion by Sarah, second by Christie. All in favor? 6-0.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll approve, next we're moving on to the approval of the Shawnee Heights High School MacBook replacements. Mr. Dinger.
Good evening, everyone. So our MacBooks are up for renewal or replacement at the high school, so we're asking for your approval tonight. Apple has come to us with a proposal to save the district some extra money, so we normally would be looking at this for summer, but due to Apple discounting the price of MacBooks right now for education for $100 off, brings the cost down significantly for the district. So we're coming to you guys tonight for approval to replace the MacBooks at the high school. This will put all of our devices on a 6-year cycle with a 3-year payment, so it steadies out the budget across the board. It makes it easier to budget for things. Capital outlay makes it a lot easier to also spread some of that around instead of having a lot of peaks and valleys in there. So I'm open to any questions you guys might have about the replacements. But one other thing, the MacBooks that we currently have will be getting sold back. We are working with Apple and some vendors on who's going to basically offer us the most money for the return of those MacBooks. So we're working with them on that, and then once we have that in place, we'll bring that back to you guys for approval as well. So any questions that I can answer for you?
Austin, can you tell me my invoice is not opening. Can you tell me
Sure.
what the invoice is?
So the invoice is for 1,250 MacBooks and screens and then Apple Care for those MacBooks. Right now, with the discount in there, that brings the total cost for the 3 years at 1.3 million. Some change, so 1,328,687, which is about $100,000 off the cost because of the discount that Apple's giving.
All right, we're looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Rosa. Second by Lauren. All in favor? 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to discussion items. Superintendent's report.
Okay, I think you can tell from the agenda, we are moving forward piece by piece with facilities and bond items. So we've spent quite a bit of time already. It's only Monday, and we've been in, I think, 2 meetings with architects and Tucker and Whitney from Lighthouse with buildings. That was today. We this morning met with, I can't remember how many different people across the district with cap outlay. We're working on that. We've been working on that for a while, but we're trying to get those wrapped up. So, and they're closely interrelated. So hopefully we'll have capital outlay requests to you here shortly. But it's exciting to see progress, just a lot going on behind the scenes. Strategic plan, I just wanted to mention that again. January 20th is our second board meeting in January. And we have that first meeting to start working on the strategic plan. We'll set that up as a work session right before that board meeting at 5:30. And I did have that in the Friday notes, but I'll put that in there again, probably as a whole section as a reminder. And I can send an email as well. But that will kick off January 20th, and that will be the board and all district admin and building admin. So we'll have some pretty good conversation about what do we want. Where do we want to go with academics? Where do we want to go with recruiting and retaining staff? Or what are our top priorities? What do we want our kids to know when they graduate? So lots of good conversation. We've focused heavily on making sure our facilities are seeing improvements and are set up for student success. Now we're going to focus on some other things as we're moving forward. So that's exciting. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't sent names, a lot of you have submitted names, but if you wanted to recommend a couple people to be on that, those committees that are giving input in February, send me a couple names. And then in February, we'll have 2 meetings with the bigger community group. So that is coming quickly when we come back from winter break. And speaking of winter break, 4 days, and I think from being out in some of the elementary buildings, people are counting. They are excited. Lots of holiday parties coming up, lots of holiday concerts this week. I think you can tell from the parking lot, not only do we have basketball, but we have the Vespers concert going on, and it's a busy place this week. So I think people, staff and students alike, are looking forward to a little bit of a break coming up. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Doesn't look like we have any. Questions, comments from board members of education? Board of Education members? Do that every time. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say what a great job everyone did from facilities and our police officers who were here when we had this student get injured on the basketball court. It was, everybody really just came together. The crowd was quiet. The kids were all concerned. And it was, not that it was something, that you ever want to see happen, but the response to everybody's coming together to make sure that she got off the court safely. I know you were here that evening and called the ambulance, and so it was just nice that everyone kind of just waited and made sure that she was okay, and it was just really good to see our students were, you know, really worried and were curious about what was going on. So kudos to our fire department, ambulance, and especially our police officer here. So thank you all very much. Other than that, it's been so much fun to see basketball and all the winter sports happening again, and I just love this time of year. So it's been good. So thank you. And I heard that the concert last week was amazing, orchestra on Thursday. So kudos to them too.
All right, anybody else? Okay, we're going to move on to executive session. I need Ms. Meggers and Mr. Hirsch. I think about 10 minutes enough? Okay. All right, so I move that we go into executive session to discuss an individual employee's performance pursuant to the exception for non-elected personnel under COMA. We will return to regular session at 7:42. Motion by Erica, second by Rosa. All in favor? 6-0. right, we do not need our second executive session, so I just want to wish everybody a safe and happy holiday, and get some rest, and I need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Christie, second by Lauren, all in favor? 6-0.